Okay, this is the homework help that goes with lesson 9, 8.1. This is from your Big Ideas textbook, so section 7.1. And I've labeled the exercises so they have similar questions so you can see them. Now, for questions when you're just evaluating things, particularly with numbers, don't forget you can just actually use Desmos straight away. You can type in the question. I clicked on the fraction to decimal button, and it will actually give you a fraction, which is going to be more useful. And the same for this question as well. Now, if you don't want to use the Desmos calculator, then for this question here, the negative exponent, I know that that means that I'm going to bring the question to the bottom of the fraction. So, and make it positive. So negative exponents, we do two things. We switch their position and we change the sign to positive. Now, if I work out negative 3 cubed, that means negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, which is negative 27. A positive divided by a negative is a negative, and that's where your negative 1 over 27 comes from. Similarly, if I change this to the power of 4 then, or sorry, if I do this question here, would it be negative 4, bring it to the bottom, but make it positive? And negative 3 times negative 3 would be 9, times negative 3 is negative 27, times by another negative 3 would be 81. And that's why you get positive 81. But certainly don't forget about Desmos. That's a really useful tool for these types of questions. If we're getting more complicated, we can still use Desmos. We can just type in the question and it will work out the answer, which is negative 1/2 for this question. But if we're working this out by hand, remember what this actually means. This means 1 over 2 to the power of 1, which is technically just 1 over 2. Anything to the power of 0 is 1, except this has a leading negative, so it would actually be negative 1. And 1/2 divided by negative 1 would be negative 1/2. But technically, nothing wrong with doing this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using your Desmos calculator to check. Use that fraction button to change it into a fraction at the end. We could do the same for this one, but I'm going to do this one by hand. The one with the negative exponents, I could switch the positions for these. So this one would move to the bottom. So I would have negative 4. As I moved it, though, make it a positive exponent. The one on the bottom with the negative exponent, same sort of thing. But I could bring this one to the top and make it a positive exponent. And then work out each one. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. And don't forget, you can still simplify your fractions as well. So it should just be positive 1/2. Notice how Desmos just does all the work for you, and you don't actually have to worry about simplifying your fraction at all for that. Simplify x to the negative 3 using only positive exponents. So we would just move it to the bottom, and you would make it positive. Now, remember for this question here, we had to remember to put a 1 here. Remember, technically, this question is the same as 1x to the negative 3. So as the 1 doesn't have an exponent, that's why it doesn't move. And then the x to the negative 3 does move because it has that negative exponent. Now, not that it asks for this question, but if you have a different number at the start, it's really important that you only move the thing with the exponent to the bottom and make it negative. So the 5 doesn't move because it doesn't have a negative exponent. Only the x has the negative exponent. So just a little extension because you'll need that on other questions later. Simplify this, write your answer using only positive exponents. So the 6 is good. X to the 2 is a positive exponent already. 0 is not really positive or negative, I guess, really at this point. Remember, anything to the power of 0, though, is 1. So technically what I have here is 6x squared times by 1, z to the negative 4. So as it's a negative exponent, I'm going to switch the positions. And notice when you work out 6 times 1, you just get 6. So technically this 1 just disappears. So what I could have done for this one is, if I have other terms around it, when I have that 0 exponent, you can kind of ignore that and just focus on the other terms. And there's the answer, just written a little bit nicer. So similar to question 18, whoops, didn't mean to show the answer quite that quick. So anything to the power of 0, that would just be 1. A to the 4, that already has a positive exponent, so we're just going to leave that. B to the negative 3 has a negative exponent, so we're going to move it from the top to the bottom. 5 squared, you're just going to work that out. That would be 25. Do we really need to say 1a to the 4? No, you can just say a to the 4, and that would be perfectly okay. And let's just check that's exactly what I had there. Question 21, same idea. We're just going to work across the question here and simplify terms as we go along. So 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25. A to the 0 is just 1, and 25 times 1 is just 25. So I'm just going to ignore that term there. B to the negative 3, change the position. So move it to the bottom of the fraction. 2 to the negative 1, same thing. Move it to the top and change it to a positive exponent. And C to the negative 5, same thing. Switch the position and make it positive. Now for this one, we can combine terms. 2 to the power 1 is obviously just 2. 25 times 2 is 50. So we got 50 here, C to the 5, and then over B cubed. And our last little homework reminder or homework help is this one. So we're just working along again. So we got negative 6. Power of 0 is just 1. Negative 6 times 1 is still negative 6, so it kind of like doesn't really do anything. S to the negative 12, so switch the position and make it positive. So S to the 12 on the bottom. 4 to the negative 3, make it 4 to the power of 3, but switch the position so it's on top. And T to the negative 2, same thing. Make it T to the positive 2 and switch its position. And sometimes the numbers get a little big. 4 cubed is 64. Times by 6, you would have to work out what that is exactly. I think it's negative 384. There we go. I just wanted to check. T squared and then S to the 12, and we would be done. So they're all very similar to the questions you just saw, and hopefully you can go and try that exercise now.